The views and opinions expressed in The Fact Is with Hollis Grant are those of Hollis Grant and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Droids Canada Network. Droids Canada Network does not take responsibility for any content or position produced by Hollis Grant and his show. Listener discretion is advised.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Fact Is. I am your host, Hollis Grant. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the working man. Yes, that's right, the working man. And how the working man has to suffer through inflation. How the working man has to deal with rising costs in groceries and rising costs in gas. And no matter where you're listening to in the world, whether it be America, where it be Canada, where it be in France, where it be in Belgium, in Russia, or even in Zimbabwe, and my personal favorite, South Sudan. And thank you very much to those listeners in the South Sudan listening on droidscanada.com. We definitely appreciate those views and listens. And remember, take a look at our website for all our past episodes. In fact, there's over 75 episodes that you can go back and re-listen to. But we're going to be talking about what it's like to be the average man that sees a very small increase to wage and sees such a high increase to everything else. And that's always been the way. That's been the way for the last 60, 70 years. Wages have not increased at all with the cost of inflation, and they never do. And they never will. But how does this relate to the common man? Because you and I are both working very hard and we see less and less money. But what's it like for Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada? And what does he get with all those perks of being the Prime Minister of Canada? Well, there's an interesting article that came out on August 1st, and I'm going to read from Global News. Now, this is from the legacy media, mainstream media, and we know that they're all very partial towards Justin Trudeau because we've covered on past episodes. There's a lot of money at stake. There's about $1 billion that gets funneled in from the government to report or to go to these quote-unquote news agencies. So it's very interesting to see the shift and see how it's written. Now we're going to take a look at this particular article. And again, this is from the Globe and Mail from August 1st. Sir Justin Trudeau has been offered the gift of his own likeness some 17 times since becoming Prime Minister of Canada, including once by the President of China. So what does that say about your leader, the one that had one of the most extreme lockdown measures and took most control, had a problem with the trucker convoy, the quote-unquote freedom convoy, seized bank accounts and stopped criticism of the government? What does that say when he accepted portraits of himself 17 times? The portraits and photos, along with a myriad of vases, wine bottles, and Star Wars paraphernalia, are among the more than 400 gifts valued at over $200 that Trudeau has declared to the Federal Ethics Commissioner since the late 2015. Among the representations of myself, as they are commonly described in Trudeau's disclosures, are a portrait seal from Chinese President Xi Jinping and a painting on a goat skin offered by Abiy Ahmed Ali, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. There is also a 3D crystal collage of Trudeau and former U.S. President Barack Obama, and cutouts of him and his wife, Sophie Trudeau, given by a Canadian artist. The Prime Minister's office, when asked, did not specifically address the question of what happens to all these images of Trudeau. For example, do any, such as the oil painting titled Happy Moments, hang in his residence at Rideau Cottage? They said simply that some gifts are kept or stored while others are donated or forfeited. Ray Norton, the Chief of Protocol at Global Affairs Canada from 2016 until 2019, told the Canadian press he doesn't read anything into the portraiture trend other than a desire, quote, to get more personal and less costly. Toward that same goal, Norton said in an interview, the Canadian Protocol Office would try to match gifts offered by Trudeau with the recipient's taste. Former German Chancellor Angela Merkel was a Bach fan, so she got a box set of concertos performed by Glenn Gould. He said while one of Trudeau's gifts to former U.S. President Donald Trump was a 1980s photograph of Trump with Pierre Elliott Trudeau in New York, which is Trudeau's father. Trump likes pictures of himself, so that was a gift that was seemingly very well received, Norton said. The president told the media at the time, "What a great picture." Norton explained the gift exchange are a highly orchestrated bureaucratic affair, adding that Canadian prime ministers would just as soon not receive any gifts because of the potential for negative attention. No leader of a democratic country is interested in being compromised or having to spend a fraction of the news cycle defending a gift received or a gift given, he said. Trudeau has received 110 gifts from other countries, heads of state or government since he became prime minister. An analysis of the public record shows, with a major drop-off during the pandemic as travel became far less frequent. Jordan's King Abdullah II has been the most generous of foreign officials, presenting 10 gifts to Trudeau, ranging from a handmade leather saddle to a sculptural plant vessels to jars of honey. The king even had a box of skincare products dropped off for Trudeau while on a personal visit to Canada last year, during which the Prime Minister's office said the two did not meet. French President Emmanuel Macron came in second with 7 presents for the Prime Minister, including a limited edition Star Wars X-Wing pen, a gift perhaps outshone by Obama's 2016 offering of a script of the film The Force Awakens, signed by J.J. Abrams, which happens to stand for Jar Jar Abrams, because he did such a poor job at directing The Force Awakens. Now, the pen is most likely the DuPont Star Wars pen. It's a special collectible edition, and that's currently for sale on eBay for about $240 US. More than 140 gifts declared by Trudeau were actually for his wife or their children, such as ride-on scooters and plush toys of Bo, the first dog gifted by Obama. And several dozen consisted of introduction to various clothing, accessories, and jewelry designers, like a pair of fight gloves offered by Rival Boxing Gear in 2018. Still, others were swag bags containing various branded items, such as a Jack Daniels t-shirt and hoodie offered alongside a bottle of whiskey. Trudeau had to forfeit 20 gifts over the past few years, including 3 paintings of himself, an Arabian cloak, and a Sakio watch from the Japanese Prime Minister because they were worth more than $1,000. I wonder if the Arabian cloak was given to him before or after the Arabian Nights photograph of him in blackface. I believe that was incident number 2 of the blackface scandals. Now, so far, there's a total of 3, and I'm sure there's quite possibly more. He reimbursed part of the cost of 2 gifts so that he could keep them: an e-bike offered by Chinese Premier Li Kengkai in 2016, and an etching by Inuit artist Annie Putuguk from the president of Nunavik Inc. in 2017. He also received from Li a Huawei Mate 10 Pro Android phone in 2017. Least the Chinese electronic devices arose suspicion. Norton said the RCMP scans everything the Prime Minister receives and sometimes even takes items apart, looking for anything compromising, and a spokeswoman for Trudeau said all gifts sent to him are securely cleared. Now, it's interesting to note that Huawei is trying to build a 5G network in Canada. Huawei is trying to install their computers in the Canadian Navy's warships. And Huawei has a rich history of donating to the Liberals. The ethics disclosures do not include items given to Trudeau that are worth less than $200, such as the trinkets and letters he often receives from the general public. So there you have it. You have a prime minister that is telling people to stay inside, is telling people to get vaccinated, restricting those unvaccinated people from getting on planes, getting on trains, leaving the country, is telling you what to do, is shutting down protests, seizing assets, meanwhile collecting pictures and portraits of themselves, receiving all sorts of gifts, and having all these donations coming rolling in. How does that make you feel, knowing that you have to go to work day in and day out, that you have to deal with the cost of bad government and deal with inflation? Do you think that any politician or anyone serving the country should not be able to receive any gifts? That no gifts should be given to any civil servant or an elected official? I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this edition of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant, and I hope you have yourself a great week.
Dan, what happens every Thursday?
That would be DCR Droids Canada Radio.
And what time is it out on Thursday?
That's from 9 till 11 p.m.
Dumb question, where do you find it?
You find that at accessradio.ca.
And what's the best part?
It's